Welcome to episode 46 of From the Shed End podcast. As always, myself, Theo, T.Dot as well. How are you doing?
I've had better way. I've ended years in a better way. Let's put it like that. Wasn't the best way to end the year. Probably will forget later on, but let's wish all the viewers a happy end to the year. Happy 2022, and hope you enjoyed your 2021. And now let's talk about some less, joyful stuff in Chelsea FC now.
Yeah, because I mean, let's sort of very briefly, let's talk about, obviously we're going on the back of a very good end to last season, winning the Champions League, getting top four, everyone's on a high. We had the Euros after that as well, so we went into the season with high expectations. I think we both even said, the Premier League is what we're after. The title of this episode is the title race over for us? Thomas Tuchel thinks it is. We can't compete in the title race is what he said yesterday after the game. So, we kind of had our expectations that we wanted to get the Premier League after the Champions League. Do you think that is unrealistic now to think that we can't do that? Mathematically, we probably can, obviously, but realistically, I think we have to think about how City are, the form that they're in, the run they're on. If we lose on Sunday against Liverpool, I think we'd probably have to say we're kind of out the race now. Would you agree or do you disagree?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, mathematically, it's still possible, like I said in the previous episode as well. But then sometimes you have to look beyond the logics of maths and look at the current circumstances of the club, the injuries, the COVID cases, the Lukaku news that's just come out, which we'll touch upon in a bit. And it just seems like everything is going against us at the moment and we're not getting a single bit of luck. So it pains me a lot to say, but I do think the title race is over. I'm always quite optimistic about things, but City just looks so relentless. And like we say all the time, they only get better after Christmas as well. And I think Chelsea and Liverpool are the big losers with the African Cup of Nations, with the players that they're losing, in our goalkeeper and probably Liverpool's two most attacking players. So I think City will just, get stronger and stronger in the new year. And I think one or two of the teams are going to drop points in January. It's going to be Chelsea and Liverpool over City. So let's say it's not over. Let's just go with the logic of maths. Stay optimistic, but yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I'm not as optimistic as you. I think it's done. I think after, you think about how many points I think we've dropped from the start of December, end of November, all those draws, those 1-1s that we've had. And I mean, I'm not saying obviously if we win, obviously I'm going to look like an idiot because we'll have won the Premier League. But I just think the way that we've performed over this month, and not even just this month, we've got to think about next month is just as busy. We've got some big games coming up, Carabao Cup, FA Cup as well. So it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult, I think, if we can even attempt to make it a title challenge after this. But I wanted to go through yesterday's game, talk about some of the players that started. Wanted to do some player ratings. So I think it's only fair that I let you do most of this. So I think because you was at the game obviously as well, so you probably had a better perspective of some of the things that went on during the game. But if we just go from goalkeeper to Satan, as he's known currently at the moment, number 9. So I thought Mendy played really well. I thought he pulled off some really good saves. I can't remember the numbers, shots on target that Brighton had, but I'm sure it was double figures at the end of the game. But what was your assessment of Edouard Mendy?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I know I was at the game, but I've refused to watch the highlights. So I'll let you take the lead on this one of the ratings, if I'm honest. But yeah, from my memory of the game yesterday at Stamford Bridge, Mendy was quite solid, probably one of our best players. He made a few important saves. He did what he had to do. The 90th minute header from Welbeck, not much you can do about that. It went into the corner. It caught him off guard as well. So I think Mendy did his job. We've conceded, obviously, he kept the clean sheet, so he can't get too high of a rating. He didn't keep a clean sheet, sorry. I think it's just 7 out of 10 is a fair for Edouard Mendy.
Yeah, I think that's justified. I think he, like you said, he pulled off some really good saves. For the goal, I'm not, I can't really I can't really criticize him. I think it was just, Chalobah and Rudiger who potentially should be doing better, which we'll get onto shortly. But one of the key things that was very obvious to see, in my opinion, was Christian Pulisic at right wing back. I wasn't happy with that. I understand the logic behind it because obviously Tariq Lamptey, Reece James, you kind of expect Reece James to be able to handle Tariq Lamptey as well. But just in terms of Pulisic, what was your thoughts on him? Because I probably would have scored him a 4, maybe a 5 in the position that he played.
Yeah, it's not his strongest position. Thought he was pretty average. He played quite well in that position in the second half of the Aston Villa game, but didn't really offer much in the game yesterday. I can understand Tuchel's logic in dropping Alonso, keeping him fresh maybe for the Liverpool game as well, and starting James, up against Lamptey. James is powerful, he's strong, he's pacey, and that kind of leaves us, with that free slot at right wing backs. We don't have the depth in our squad at the moment in the wing back position, so he was kind of forced to play at Pulisic. He's got better pace and he's got the legs, unlike Azpilicueta, so that makes sense. But yeah, I think are we doing ratings here or?
Yeah, we're getting the ratings done.
Yeah, let's just give him a 5 out of 10. I think.
Yeah, I think he was a 5, and to give him any credit, obviously it's not his natural position, like you said. So I didn't expect much from him. It highlights what we've spoke about on here before many times. We've got squad depth, but when you have you factor in injuries to that as well, it highlights a massive thing when you're having to play Christian Pulisic as right wing back. So I think 5's justified in terms of that, but. Cesar Azpilicueta, who you pull in the face. Anyone who's not watching on YouTube, Theo's pulling the face like he can smell shit at the moment.
No. I do love Azpi. I do love him. I love Dave, but I don't know. It's just. To be fair, I'd pull the face of any of those centre backs at the moment. I think Rudiger was probably the best out of the lot yesterday with some important blocks, but Christensen before his injury looked a bit lost at times. Chalobah wasn't at his best, like you said. He could have done maybe better for the Welbeck header. And Azpi, obviously, I don't know, I think he's losing his pace, he's losing his strength. I do want him to stay more, he brings so much to his team and leadership experience, but big games, and I do think the game yesterday is a big one. We have to treat it like that, because now that we dropped points, we dropped 2 points, we're almost out of the title race. So it's a shame. It's kind of a game I think definitely Silva would have started probably had he not got an injured away to Aston Villa. But yeah, Azpi again, I think 5 out of 10 is fair. Kept a clean sheet until the 90th minute and then conceded. So yeah, I'll just go with that.
Yeah, I'd probably give him a 6 because I thought again he played very well. We know he can play centre back. It's not his natural position. He likes to play and I think if that was another game, he would have probably started in that right wing back position. But I think you hit the nail on the head with the lack of speed that he's got. He's not the fastest anymore. He doesn't look as solid as he used to. Talking 5 years ago or so, he doesn't seem like that sort of defender that he used to be. So that might just be age, might be the fact that he's playing a large number of games now. At the age that he is, so it could just be that. But I'd give him a 6. I thought he definitely pulled off some good saves, and again, it's not his natural position, if we want to call it that. But move over to Christensen, who, if I'm honest, he's a 5. He's a 5 for me. He was, like you said, which we're going to touch on afterwards. But I feel like something is going on at Chelsea. I don't know what it is, whether it's backroom issues, contract issues. I think his head's gone. I think he doesn't want to be there. If I'm honest now, I think it's kind of coming out slowly that he wants to move away to Barca or to wherever it's going to be. I think he was average. I think I'd give him a 5, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd agree with the rating. He only played one half of football. The one thing that makes me feel a bit like I want to protect him a little is that when Reece James pulled his hamstring, ruptured his hamstring, at that same period, Christensen was on the floor, had holding his back. And he was forced to play another about 25 minutes of football with that injury. So it's a bit harsh to kind of, point the finger to him. I don't want to point the finger to any of the players. Really, I'm not that type of person. But he played about 25 minutes with his back pain and then was substituted at halftime for Chalobah. But, that being said, I just feel like we compare a lot of our centre backs at the moment to, the passion and the drive that Rudiger or Silva bring. And like you said, he wasn't really up there. Christensen is like, his head is elsewhere. He's not starting as many games, and he's not that same Christensen we saw, at the start of the season or even at the back end of last season. So, I think 5 out of 10 is fair.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Someone who is surprising me, to be fair, and we spoke about him on here separately before, and the more I'm seeing of him, the more I am thinking, at 400 grand a week, Rudiger, for me, at the moment, and I'm talking maybe up there, bar Thiago Silva, is the best centre back we've got. If we're talking about someone who can play consistently, obviously we know that Thiago Silva plays one game, misses one, plays one, misses two, or vice versa. But I think Rudiger at the moment, whether that's because he wants to play for a move away from Chelsea, or the fact that he just wants to put a shift in, he wants to be committed to the club still until the contract's resolved or he moves on. But I thought he was brilliant. I thought he put in some key blocks. One thing I love to see about him, he loved to drive forward the ball. He done that quite a few times, and it's always strange because when he picks the ball up in the sort of final third, the crowd are telling him to shoot. I thought he played a good game, and I'll give him that. I think he had a very good game. But again, you look at those three centre backs. Even when the subs come on, Chalobah comes on, but it just wasn't enough. And like I said before, the goal that went in. Again, I'm not blaming Chalobah or Rudiger, but I just think there's two people marking one player, and he still gets the goal off. So, someone's got to do a bit more, I think, and be a bit more closer, a bit more aggressive in trying to win that header for me. But what was your thoughts, Theo?
Yeah, I can just echo everything you said. I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch yesterday. Made some big blocks, some big tackles. Even at times went on some of those crazy runs that we like to see Tony Rudiger do. And I think I still think there's no way we should be offering him £400 a week. No player in our current squad's worth paying £400,000 a week. But what'll be interesting is, should we offer him a contract, above £300,000 a week? I'd actually expect his level to drop off a bit. I feel like he's almost playing for that contract. He's playing for a move away, like you said. Same probably with a lot of players at the moment. You look at Mbappe, look at Salah, their contracts, finished this summer, and they're playing probably the best football of their careers at the moment. So you do wonder, are they playing for a move away? Are they trying to, impress some potential, other clubs? Rudiger's free to negotiate, a deal with a club abroad in January, the likes of Real Madrid, PSG, Bayern Munich, all interested. It's another frustrating one because I do want him and Christensen to stay, but clearly now, in September, I was just so sure they'd sign new contracts before the end of the year. We're now, the 30th of December, and he still haven't put pen to paper. I'm always tempted to say, let them leave now. If they haven't really agreed a new contract, let them leave.
I agree with you. I think we've got to the point now, and I say this again, we'll talk about Lukaku shortly, but I think if we're getting to the point where it's squeaky bum time and we still haven't got those, the ink isn't drying on the paper on the contract, I think we just need to start thinking of plan Bs, start thinking about a Koundé or a Wesley Fofana I think he's still injured, but if someone like that, we've got to start thinking about plan Bs now, because ultimately the ball is in the player's court at the moment, and what we don't want to do is lose three key players in the one area of the team as well. It's not like we're spreading it across the attacking or midfield. It's the key part of the team. So I just think we've got to start thinking long term now. And if they do sign, then great. Obviously we want them to stay. But yeah, for me, like I said a few weeks ago, we haven't seen any progress from before Christmas and before November, October. We haven't seen any progress to any of these contracts being signed. So I just think now we've got to get to the point where, yes, they play for us. If they sign for another club, then we've just got to start thinking about plan Bs, in my opinion.
Yeah, plan B is really important at the moment, like you said, because I'm looking at our screen right now. Those three centre-backs, which we've just given ratings to, could be gone in June.
Yep.
3 starting Premier League centre-backs, which leaves us just with Chalobah, Thiago Silva, and Malang Sarr.
So I smile and I'm giggling, but it's more of a sort of nervous laugh. If we lose those three, that is a massive part of your spine. Regular players that you've got in there that you lose. You bring in 3 new centre backs, expect them to gel straight away pre-season, coming off the back of playing for different clubs. It's not easy, and we've seen clubs try and do that before, and it doesn't work. So for me, yeah, obviously we can't get them in. I can't imagine we'll get any in January, but we've got to start thinking about it from now. Reece James, let's talk about Reece, because it's a strange one, because I really want to give him a really bad scoring, but I can't, obviously, because he, again, the
I don't
injury.
think it's fair not to give him a rating. I don't think just put an NA next to his name, because we know how good he is. We know he hasn't been maybe to the level that he showed in November in the last couple of games, but the fact he went off to that terrible injury, he couldn't even get off the pitch. He needed 2 people to get him off the pitch, and are we going to give him a rating for 25 minutes of football? I don't think that's fair.
I think it was. I think what was more worrying as well was he almost knew it was a bad injury as soon as he went down.
Terrible,
and how long it took him to come off the pitch as well. Obviously, he didn't come off with a stretcher, but just you could tell. I mean, you probably, again, if being there, you didn't see it, but the TV camera was close up to his face, and you can see sort of grimace in his face when he was coming off. So,
the agony,
he knew as well. You could tell how severe the injury was just from the fact of the expression in his face. So, and obviously we posted the footage of him leaving Stamford Bridge in crutches. So it does look bad. I think it's going to be, if it's a tear of the hamstring, I mean, you're talking at least maybe 2 months, 6 weeks, probably a bit longer, which worries me, because Alonso's our natural wing back is Alonso, which doesn't fill me with joy.
No.
Yeah, it's we'll have to see. I mean, obviously Tuchel hasn't come out and said how long the expectation is for Reece James, so we'll have to see about that one. But Mateo Kovacic,
one of the poorest games I've watched Kovacic perform in. Usually he's so good in midfield, full of energy. He looked quite lackluster yesterday, misplacing passes, losing the ball. A very unorthodox Mateo Kovacic performance, if I'm honest. And his midfielder next to him, Jorginho, was quite poor as well. He looked very tired. He's still playing with back pain, injections in his back. He's playing through injury. So it's hard to point the finger to them. I almost feel like Kovacic as well probably rushed back from his injury and his COVID isolation. So it's just, but they were very poor yesterday. You need a good midfield. We looked better when Kante came on, and more solid, better going forward as well. But I'm going to do the 2 of them together. I think we've been giving poor, players that perform very averagely a 5 out of 10. I think the 2 of them deserve maybe a 4 or 5 as well, because they were very poor and unlike their usual selves. Yeah,
and I think especially the second half, Brighton ran us ragged. They came out the block second half, probably for the first 20 minutes of the second half. It just looked like, when are they going to score? Not if, when are they going to score? And you just felt that goal was always going to come at some point, whether it's going to be early on in the second half or as it has been for us quite often, that sort of last ditch, sort of last attempt, conceding a goal in the sort of latter stages of the game. But yeah, I have to agree with you. I think, Jorginho, Kovacic, they are players that you expect a lot more from. And yesterday they just gave us a 4 out of 5, 4 out of 10 performance. It just wasn't the natural midfield that we need. And maybe Kovacic is down to the fact he's been out of the game slightly. He hasn't played as much football. He has been sort of injured and the COVID stuff as well. So he could, got to factor some of that into that. But again, you're playing for a title. You're trying to win the league. I agree with you. Kante comes on, he does change the game, but I was annoyed that he had to come on as well. I think he's, we've got a big game against Liverpool on Sunday, and to risk Kante in a game where we should be comfortable. Brighton have got, like I think I said on the last episode, they haven't, apart from, as I think it was Brentford the other day that they played, apart from that game, they haven't won in the last 10, I think. So, when they scored, I was still apprehensive. I thought they might actually get another one here. So Kante coming on, obviously he done well. He done what we know he can do. He's world class. We know that. But him coming into those games now, and to the the part of his career that he's in. And I think you mentioned this last week. He's going to pick up those odd injuries now, and I think to risk him against Brighton when you've got Liverpool tells me that Thomas Tuchel was throwing the kitchen sink at the game. Using everything he had to try and win.
And as well, this goes back to the topic of last week, the last episode 45. Should we introduce 5 substitutions per game? We were forced into 2 defensive substitutions within 45 minutes. Tuchel probably had the intent of playing Kai Havertz for the 15, 20 minutes to give him minutes before the Liverpool game. And he couldn't do that now because the only substitution he had left was, to bring on Kante, which we had to do in a way because we had to conserve all the threat that Brighton were showing. And it's just so frustrating. I just feel like the players are dropping like flies at the moment. And I don't know, it's just so many things that are going against us, and then we'll probably rate them now. But Hudson-Odoi, I thought, had a decent game. I was actually furious at him for that pass that he had for
you mean the shots? It was a shot.
It was a handball as well.
Yeah,
wasn't it? I mean, I was brave enough to log into Twitter just 20 minutes before this recording because I was furious last night. But I saw a video which I sent to you. It's a clear handball.
Yeah. I was going to send it to you earlier, and I thought I'm not going to piss you off anymore.
And then I'm just thinking, like, how's VAR not even looked at? I don't want to go on a rant here. I could go on a big rant about VAR, about English referees and all that. But I'll save that for after the Liverpool game with Anthony Taylor.
Yeah, you'll need it for then. You'll need it.
Yeah, but I'll need it for then. But Mount and Hudson-Odoi, again, not their best game, if I'm honest.
I think Hudson-Odoi is one where I think he's Marmite, isn't he? People love him or they hate him, and I think he's got the quality. I think I said this earlier on Twitter, but he's got the quality to be a very good, maybe even a top player. Not necessarily just at Chelsea, but as he goes on in his career. And I think he's only 21, so he's still got a lot of football.
We have to remember that. We have to remember he's 21.
It's young, and I think people compare him to a Phil Foden or someone of that age bracket as well. But he's still got a lot of football to play, so I still think he's learning his game. I do agree that he's playing for one of the top clubs in Europe, so he's got to try harder. I understand that bit as well. I think his decision making is very poor. I think this is the second time now back to back. I think it was Aston Villa. Last game, and then obviously against Brighton yesterday. You've got to shoot. If you've got the ball and you're 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper, just shoot the ball. If you miss, I'd be more annoyed that you don't shoot. And that for me, and it's the same for Loftus-Cheek. I've said it on here before. He's brilliant going forward. He can hold the ball up. He can get forward, but he can't shoot. And it's the same for Hudson-Odoi for me. That those parts of your game you've got to adapt, because if you don't, you won't last long at Chelsea. There'll be someone else who wants to come in and take that spot. A Harvey Vale or so, whoever will come in and take that spot, because he's great getting forward. He's great taking on players, but just shoot the ball. Just shoot.
Completely have to agree. His decision making at times is really questionable. He just almost he panics when he gets into the penalty box. He doesn't know what to do. He holds the ball for too long, or just maybe it's something he needs to work on the training pitch. But if he can improve that part of his game, and he's only 21, like you said, we have to remember that. Then he's a brilliant footballer. But another player that a lot of Chelsea fans, or at least the Chelsea fans that I interact with on Twitter, like to scapegoat and point the finger to, a bit like Alonso. But no, not one of his best games. But then again, none of the players really performed yesterday. So a rating for him, I'd probably be a 5 out of 10. I think everybody would deserve a 5 out of 10 almost, apart from maybe Rudiger, Mendy, and Lukaku.
Yeah, I'd give Hudson-Odoi a Mount of 5. I think you're right. I think Mason Mount was quiet during that game at times. I don't think he. Again, I don't know if it's just the number of games that he's playing.
Playing a lot of football. He is playing a lot of football,
and he has done for back-to-back seasons. And you think about even during Lampard's time. Now, I think he had that sort of break when Tuchel came in. He was sort of subbed on a few times. I think there was 1 or 2 games. But even you think about the Euro competition as well, and then coming back into a new season. So he's played a lot of football over the last 18 months, and it was a 5 for me. But again, I'm not criticizing him individually. I think, like you said, that's a blanket rating I think I could give to pretty much most of that squad yesterday. But Lukaku, I really don't want to give him this rating, but I'm gonna give him a 7 because I think he was the only outfield player bar Rudiger who looked up for the game.
Yeah,
If
I'd
I'm
have to
honest,
agree.
he looked like he wanted the game. He was frustrated if he didn't get the ball. He was trying to win the ball. He just muscling the defenders. The goal, I mean, the goal was brilliant. I don't know what. I think it's Mopai. I
He
don't know what he's
committed a foul
doing.
first, if anything.
Yeah, he was rugby tackling Lukaku, and obviously, you just don't do that to someone who looks like he goes to gym, 23 hours a day. So, yeah, it was a good goal. He looked like he was up for it, and I was impressed with him. It's good to see him slowly coming back into the form that we need him to come back into as the number 9. But I agree with you. I don't think the intention was to play Lukaku for the full game. I think that would have been a sub maybe to give Kai Havertz or Timo Werner that role maybe for a bit. But yeah, I don't know what you think about him, what his
Yeah,
performance was like yesterday.
like I said, I think Mendy and then the outfield players in Rudiger and Lukaku were our sharpest players yesterday. They looked the most up for it. Probably the most frustrated as well at full time not to get the 3 points. I thought Lukaku's goal was brilliant. Header, dominant header. Other than that, though, I'm not sure he did too much. Like you said, he bullies a lot of players off the ball, brush a lot of players. Look, it's almost effortless at times when he just pushes players away and they fall over. But it's not a foul. It's just because Lukaku's stronger than them. Like you said, it's as if he goes to the gym 23 hours a day. He's a bully. He's a big player. He can still improve his game. I want to say there's still elements of his game he can improve, like that chance when it's Hudson-Odoi and Mount in front of goal. Lukaku was nowhere to be seen. He's your number 9. He should be the one in the penalty box asking for the ball. So there's small things like that at times that you're wondering. If he's not the one bringing the ball to the penalty box himself, then sometimes he's nowhere to be seen. I say this a lot about Werner, but he used to a couple of times yesterday I saw him drift to the side.
Yeah.
And then there was a time, I think, in the first half when Christensen and Reece James were injured. Mendy came rushing out of his penalty box to talk to Lukaku, when he had a minute or two. And I think I could kind of tell what they were talking about. It was, my goal kick's going to go to you. Be ready to receive them. And Lukaku, at times, he did a good job to try to get it, but not good enough. I know that Dan Burn's a big centre-back, but, he wasn't good enough, defending, winning those balls or those second balls when Mendy would try to clear them from the goal kick. So there's still parts that he can improve, but 7 out of 10 is a fair rating for him.
I know everyone talks about his first touch, but I really noticed that yesterday. I really noticed how at times it's almost like the ball bounces off him. Like, I don't know, it's hard to describe. It's such a weird one because sometimes he's brilliant with the ball and he can hold it up and he receives it really well. And then there's times where it just almost, it's like the ball's running away from him. It's so hard to describe. So I think I agree with you. There's definitely parts of his game that he just needs to adapt, and maybe he's never going to get there. I don't know. He's how old is he now? 28, 29. So there's probably parts of it that he's probably never going to develop because of he's coming to that stage where he should be doing these things already. He should be getting in the box. He should be not drifting. He should be in the box. That's where you want your number 9. So maybe he's never going to get there. I don't know. Maybe it's something that Tuchel's asking him to do, but whatever it is, this is the time now where he's going to have to, especially after what's come out tonight, this is where he's got to step up now and be that number 9, be that leader up front and put the ball in the back of the net. That's what he's getting paid to do.
Now, also wondering now, is he committed to Chelsea after the comments and the interview that's just come out? So if Fabrizio Romano is reporting it, then it's got to be a bit of legs and truth to it. Yeah. So it's worrying. It's quite worrying, and we'll touch on it in a bit. But
let's do it right now. Let's get straight onto it now. Obviously, you just mentioned there around the interview that I think was held, I think 3 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Now, I don't want to misquote what was said, so I am going to pull it up. I'm going to try and pull it up on here, actually. Maybe if I can just pull it up on the screen so everyone can see it as well. It's such a weird thing to say, I suppose, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, I mean, you're just hoping the words were twisted, and that's not actually how he came across in the interview. I want to see the video evidence, but the way he opens up by saying, "I want to stay professional," or "I'll be professional."
I think because you want to stay professional, but here you are throwing your manager under the bus.
Yeah. And then it contradicts what his agent also said 2 days ago. I think Federico Pastorello is his agent.
Yeah.
He said 2 days ago that Lukaku is very happy at Chelsea and is also the one who pushed for the move to Chelsea and wanted to leave Inter Milan. So you're kind of wondering which one's lying, who's lying? Is it the agent? Is it the player? Is it the person who interviewed Lukaku? So I don't know.
I think for me, one of the things, I'm just trying to pull it up, but one of the things that sort of the first sort of question that I had was around. So hopefully we can see that on there. Yeah. So one of the things that I kind of thought about initially was the timing. The timing of this is so weird. Not in terms of what time, sort of 8 p.m. or whatever it came out. I'm talking in terms of we've got a big game against Liverpool in 48 hours or so. Just off the back of a weird Brighton game where, yes, you scored a goal, but we didn't win. It's such a weird time for all of this. And I know, Lukaku's not in control of that at all. I don't mean that in that sense, but just what a weird time for it to come out. So I'm sure there's things the club must have been briefed that this was going to be something that was probably going to come out at some point. I don't know whether they can get those kind of things stopped. I don't know how it works, but give me your thoughts on what he said. Obviously, no one's bigger than the club. We know that already.
Yeah.
No one's bigger than the club. But do you think that those, because I said to you offline, I think I need a bit of context. I need to understand. And I think you said the full transcripts kind of come out now, but I just want to know the context. Is that his actual words? And if they are, then, he knows where the airport is. He knows where, I think there's 3 airports in London. You can choose one and you can go. But, what's your thoughts?
It's surprising. It's extremely surprising. You'd have thought Lukaku was the happiest player at Chelsea. He was, happy to be back at his boyhood club, if you can call it like that, after Anderlecht, the club that brought him to the Premier League. He grew up being a Chelsea fan. Then again, maybe you don't know what's happening behind the scenes. If he's had a falling out with Thomas Tuchel, you're maybe thinking he wanted to play during that period. He just came back from injury, whereas Thomas Tuchel wanted to be a bit more conservative and, give him the odd 15, 20 minutes in the game or so before he can fully, integrate back into the team. So maybe he's frustrated because he's the type of player that wants to score every goal, wants to be the top goal scorer of the league. And then maybe the other thing I'm trying to think is in that interview, he was almost trying to apologize to the Inter fans for the way he left. And then his words were twisted and it came across as he wanted to be back at Inter. He wanted to finish his career at Inter or whatever it may be. But, now he's deactivated his Twitter account, whether he's getting hate from Chelsea fans after the interview or because he's preparing a statement to pull out, to apologize or whatever it may be. But like you said, I'm very 50-50 about it. I don't want to, give any hate to Lukaku because I still think he loves Chelsea. He's committed to the club. But at the same time, like you said, I want a bit more context. I want to understand, where these words came from, if he's committed to the club, beyond this season. And like you said again, if he wants to go back to Inter, he can go. No player is bigger than the club.
I think it's so weird because I know obviously he didn't necessarily want to leave Inter. I think we have to remember that he didn't. The way that the transfer happened was he kind of was happy at Inter. He didn't really want to go. I think they're in quite a bit of debt as well at Inter. So I think the deal made sense. I think the way that he left probably wasn't the best way to leave a club in terms of Inter, but he was coming back to the club that he's always said he loves. He like you just said, he's always never forgotten Chelsea, even when he's played, United or wherever he's gone afterwards. He's always remembered his sort of Chelsea roots. And I think whatever those words were in terms of the system or whatever Thomas Tuchel's doing, it's not in a way, it's something that we've all kind of probably, not all of us, but a lot of Chelsea fans have said. A lot of Chelsea fans have said. Conte's come out, I think, as well, and said, they're not getting the best out of how he's got to play Lukaku. So I don't necessarily disagree with the statement. I think for me, the shock is that it's coming from the player that's involved, and I think that's what's more annoying and pissed me off a bit was the fact that it's come directly from him. If it was someone linked to Lukaku, his brother or an agent or Rock Nation, I'd go off. Agents are like, management companies are like, they just want to add fire to the fuel. or fuel to the fire even. But if it's him that's done that, he's come out and said this. That tells me there's a lot going on behind the scenes at Chelsea. There's, we spoke about, and we'll talk very briefly shortly about the contracts, but there's something kind of bubbling away. The performances are kind of marry up now, it kind of marries up and tells you that something doesn't make sense what's going on. So, he's not been starting games as well. He's been fully fit. As we know, I think I said on here a few weeks ago, if he's fit enough to be on the bench, he should be put in the team to be the number 9. So, yeah, it's annoying because I think, like I said, timing is key for anything, and we've got a big game against Liverpool. And this is what I'm going to ask you actually. If you're Thomas Tuchel and he has come out and he has said this, do you play him on Sunday?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we can't afford not to play him. I don't think Kai Havertz is fully fit, and I do think that Lukaku will speak out before the game against Liverpool, some kind of cryptic message on Instagram, not apologizing, but still showing his love and admiration for Chelsea and maybe the manager and his colleagues. And I just also hope that Didier Drogba gives him a little phone call in between time, almost like
he's already done it.
Yeah, you probably know it, like almost like a telling off, or some kind of like, bro, what the fuck kind of phone call,
Yeah.
But yeah, and also small things like you never know the tone of voice he had when he said those words in the interview. It's kind of, and I kind of looked into the person who interviewed him. He's a Inter Milan journalist.
Well, this is the thing, and this is why I think I need the context, because I think it's Inter Milan. It's someone who's linked to Inter Milan who's asking the questions. For me, it just seems a bit more of clickbait.
It was probably conducted in Italian as well, which maybe when it translates, it's different. Or
this is why I wanted to talk about it on here, obviously, but I just wanted to. I think for me, I want to hear that sort of explanation from Lukaku. The fact is, deactivated kind of tells me that he's going to give us something to say. These were my words, or this is what my interpretation of what I was trying to say, or something along those lines. And obviously, Rock Nation being his management team, I'm sure they're working away as we speak to try and pull something together before the Liverpool game. But I don't know if I think I'd bench him, if I'm honest. I think I'd bench him just as a. I'm quite stubborn, so I think I'd bench him out of principle.
It did happen with Diego Costa when during that January 2017. I remember he asked to leave, or he fell out with Conte or whatever it was, and then he was benched for the game against Hull City. I remember. So it's just too important of a game. That's what annoys me.
No, I know, and this is why I said timing is everything, because you ideally, you need he's back, sort of scoring form. You need him back in that sort of. A big game against Liverpool, you need him. But I just think, in terms of if he has said that, in my opinion, Tuchel's got no choice but to bench him. Bring him on, definitely bring him on. But I think you've got to bench him just to say, look, I'm the boss, and what I say goes, and that's it. I think that's how it has to work. But we'll have to see. I mean, like you said, he might bring out some sort of cryptic message tomorrow, or what day is it today? Thursday. So yeah, Saturday he might bring out a cryptic message. But happier news. Let's move over to some happy stuff.
He talks about something positive.
Let's get some positivity back on the podcast. So JT, the captain, the legend, the leader, he's back. He's back at Chelsea in a part-time role as part of the academy
youth development.
So brilliant appointment. I've got to say, I think it's a step in the right direction to being in the hot seat at Stamford Bridge at one point. But what's your thoughts on JT returning?
Just having John Terry's presence at Cobham is going to be fantastic for the young players, just for the morale of the Chelsea fans, of the team. A little surprised as well. I thought he was ready for a role in management, maybe a championship club, or that he was doing all of his coaching certificates and all that. So you do wonder, is it a step down for him? After he was assistant manager at Villa, is he ready for management? He's linked to the Nottingham Forest job a couple months ago. But at the same time, from a Chelsea perspective, it's just great to see him back at Cobham, at Stamford. He'll probably be a lot more games now around Stamford Bridge, working around the youth team, their games. So yeah, it's good to see. And he just knew as well, even when he was at Villa, he was still so watching every single Chelsea game. And I think he was liking, even, when we beat Aston Villa, he was liking posts of Aston Villa's Instagram account with a 4-time score, and you're a bit like. So yeah, it's good. It's good. It's really funny, but something that's making me smile again. So it's good.
It's a good point you make around. Is it a step down, or is he ready for management? I think that the answer is yes, he definitely is. But I think what he doesn't want to do, and he's probably seen, Wayne Rooney, Frank Lampard, these players who've gone into these management roles. Not saying they've rushed into them, but they've gone into them, and it's not worked out for them. And I think he probably wants to pick his time wisely and maybe develop a little bit more, and then try and find a role. And I think what he probably doesn't want to do is tarnish his management reputation before it's even started. A bit like, I'm not saying Lampard's done that, but I think big job at Chelsea, and then you look at Rooney now. I think Derby, if not rock bottom, they're sort of, I know they've had points deductions, but they're not playing the best football at the moment either. He doesn't want to do that, I don't think. So I think it's a really good appointment. I think the younger sort of kids coming through at Chelsea, they're going to learn a lot from someone like JT, and he probably won't just be as part of that youth. I'm pretty sure if we know JT as JT, he's still going to have some sort of influence on the under 23s, and then even maybe some of the senior players. Will just having him around will rub off on them, I think, as well.
I want that picture of John Terry and Thiago Silva together in Chelsea kits. We need to see that. We need to see that.
Legendary. Yeah, I mean, if you think back to his farewell speech, I'm sure he says, he'll be back.
I'll be back. Yeah,
he'll be back at Stamford Bridge in some capacity, and here he is. So
4 years later,
yeah, it's definitely in the right direction. I'm not saying he's going to be Chelsea manager in the next 5 years, but I think there's definitely time for him to keep himself here, move up the ranks, get the under 23s, and then maybe look at. I think that would be the perfect way to do it. You look at Gerrard, his route. Youth. I think he was youth manager, wasn't he? Under 18s at Liverpool, went over to Rangers and done that, and he is tipped, I think, after this Villa job to potentially move over to the senior management at Liverpool. So it's a good route to take for me personally. I think John Terry's doing it the right way. Not to say Lampard did it the wrong way, but we see how that ends if you don't get the results as manager. But I'm happy about that one. Really happy. Before we wrap up, we sort of run over a bit, but we've sort of touched on this already. But there was talk around Cesar Azpilicueta, and what I read this morning was he's got an agreement in principle with Barcelona to sign. So if I'm honest, I'm not really that annoyed that he wants to leave. As weird as that sounds, it's going to be heartbreaking, obviously, because he's part of the furniture at Chelsea. But I think sometimes when something's run its course, it's time to part ways and still have a bit of a career, afterwards. And that's why I think as well, I wasn't really that annoyed when Lampard left as well, because I knew, he would be back at some point in some capacity, whether that was coaching or management at Chelsea. So what's your thoughts on not just Azpilicueta, but we kind of spoke about Christensen and Rudiger and those defensive contracts that still aren't signed. What's your thoughts on that at the moment? Is it time to drive them to the airport and start bringing in some new players, or looking at our under 23s? We've got some really good defenders in the under 23s as well. But what's your view on it?
We've still got 5 months of football to play with these players, and they're still crucial to our season. Azpilicueta, our club captain; Rudiger, one of our best defenders; Christensen, one of our youngest and most promising defenders, who's still got a big part in this team. But like you said earlier in the episode, we need a plan B. If we're losing 3 of those players, we need a plan B, whether that is youth players, which I can't actually think of any good centre-backs that are out on loan or in the youth team at the moment, but whether that's a Fofana, a Jules Koundé, Matthijs de Ligt from Juventus, these type of players. But the Azpilicueta one's a weird one. Like you said, maybe it's the right time for him to leave. You're starting to think now, do you don't want him to overstay his time at Chelsea? I've been watching the Juventus All or Nothing on Amazon Prime, and you've got these players like Gianluigi Buffon, Bonucci and Chiellini, fantastic players, but you're almost thinking like they stayed last season when they should have left, and their season was awful. For someone else. Yeah, make way for someone else. Even this year, I don't think they're performing like they did, back in 2015 under, Allegri the first time round. So it's kind of, maybe it's run its course, and you're thinking it is maybe time to leave, but Barca love a freebie as well. But
I mean, that's another thing. So I think Christensen is in more. He's lined up almost to sign with Barcelona as well. So
just needs to agree personal agreement, probably wages and all that. But
that one pisses me off a bit more, if I'm honest. I think because
yeah.
of the stalling. I think the stalling, the sort of I am going to sign. I think he changed his agent. I think was his brother his agent, or his brother's now his agent, or I can't remember. But he's definitely changed his agent or whoever manages his sort of contracts at the moment, and it annoys me because of the fact that he kind of, I think, has been pushing for this sort of extra year on a contract, and I think Chelsea have sort of buckled, and I think they've gave into that. That it's on the table for him, but what I think it always comes down to is money and who's paying me more money. So Barca somehow, not sure how, maybe they're doing it on Klarna or something, but they're able to sort of bring these players in when they're meant to be on their arse, meant to be in debt. So that one annoys me more so. Rudiger, again, I'd love to keep him. I think based on his, I understand what you're saying in terms of if he gets the contract, he might do an Aubameyang and sort of just drop form and
Mesut Ozil as well.
And Ozil, yeah.
Any player that's overpaid at Arsenal, basically.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So he might do that, and I agree. And I'd look like an idiot again if that happens. He does that, but the form that he's in, the shithousery that he does, the way he sort of gets the crowd going, and I love all that. I love it. I think he's someone who can get those players, get them by the scruff of the neck and tell them, to wake up or whatever. I think he's that sort of player, and you need one of those in your team. And if we lose him, as much as he's not always a 9 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10, but just what he does, the sort of grabbing people, wake up, or telling Chalobah to do a bit more. I love that. And again, the fans, we saw off the Leeds, I think the Leeds game, I think he comes like steaming in. There's a commotion at the end of the game, and he's ran pretty much the full length of the pitch to sort things out. So again,
Diego Costa vibes.
Costa. Exactly. You need someone who's going to do the dirty work and do all that in the team, and he is that. He's that person. So he'll be a big loss if we lose him. But I don't agree with the sort of pay me this or I'm going. I don't agree with that. I think,
you have to set the example. If Rudiger gets a £300 or £400 contract, £1,000 contracts, players that are, the likes of Kante, probably he wouldn't dare to ask for that much because we know what Kante's like.
To get downgraded so he can give it to someone else.
But you're starting to think like other players are like, okay, if he's getting paid this much at that age, and I want this, and I want that, and then in 2 years' time I want this, and then you have to set the example at the club, and no player is bigger than the club, so it will be a big loss for us. But at the same time, going forward, it might be the right thing because it could set a chain of events that was very, very might cost us a lot of money, and also make players get a lot very selfish as well. So I think our highest paid player at the moment is Kante. I think on 300 or
he's on a nice bit of change.
But I just don't want.
He earns it. He earns
it. He earns it. But it would just annoy me because we're in January in a couple of days. You're thinking these players might have already agreed to sign for these other clubs and are still playing for our club, and that's why I'm getting pissed off. You're playing for Chelsea Football Club. You're wearing Chelsea Football Club's kit, but your head's in Madrid, your head's in Paris, your head's in Munich.
And this is the thing we're going to see now with players. I think clubs would rather players wind down their contracts and not have to pay that transfer fee and then give the fee to the players. So this is what makes me think Christensen will do that. Rudiger's definitely going to do. These players are going to be earning a nice chunk of signing on fee that the club would have been getting. So I think across the board we're going to see a lot more of that. I think we're going to see a lot of those scenarios.
Yeah, you do wonder as well if it's the agent as well, going in their ear saying you have to run down your contract. We can both get this amount of money each, or whether it's actually the player who's forcing a move himself. Because I think Rudiger loves Chelsea. That's what's surprising with me. He's the one who seems like the most frustrated every time we lose, the one who gives 100% until the 90th minute. That's what surprises me the most. Whereas Christensen's body language in the last couple of weeks maybe may indicate that his head's turned, which is very unfortunate. But the Rudiger one is probably more frustrating, like you said.
I'm sure we'll be doing because I'd imagine as soon as these guys are able to sign those deals, I think they'll get them done. I think if they're going to do them, they're going to do it like as soon as. They're not going to wait and start dancing around the table and asking for more money. They're going to get it done. So I'm hoping that if that is the case, that they do that, because it will just mean we can start planning and preparing for next season already as well. It would just write off this season for me, to be fair. I don't think if those players do leave or decide to leave, I'm just going to write this season off, because I don't think they'll be putting in that same performance as they would be if they were staying at the club, knowing that they've got a deal to go walk into as well. So next couple of weeks I'm sure we'll touch on that. But for those listening on Apple, don't forget you can follow us on Instagram. We still have the competition, I think. Theo, remind me from...
Yeah, we'll announce the results tomorrow or maybe on New Year's Day, but last chance to enter.
So there we go. You've got less than 24 hours now, I think. Don't forget to tag 2 people. Was it 2 friends? Add 2 friends. Follow the account. You've got
match day program.
And like the post for the match day program. Yeah. So make sure you do that if you want to win or be in contention to win, not to automatically win. You have to be in contention to win. But it's a really good giveaway. We're going to be doing another one because we've actually hit 500 followers on Twitter as well. So we will be doing another giveaway for Twitter as well very shortly. But again, you can follow us on From the Shed End on Instagram. There's underscores between each of the words, but if you just search for From the Shed End, we should pop up. And the same on Twitter. And again, don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit the subscribe button as well. We appreciate everyone that is subscribed already and they're following the account, but we need to make sure we can get to as many Chelsea fans as possible. So make this worthwhile for me and Theo after a very shit December. So please like and subscribe.
A good 2021. Let's put it like that.
Yeah. It's been a brilliant 2021.
Yeah.
No, if someone had said to me, start, end of last season, we're going to be top 4, win the Champions League, even the Euros, we're going to do well. Chelsea players going to do well in that as well. I would have said, yeah, of course I'll take that. But you can't win every game, and you have to take defeats gracefully as well. So it wasn't even a defeat. Why do I keep saying a defeat? It's a draw. Feels like a defeat.
I was thinking about it today. It's like one positive is how we're treating draws like defeats at the moment.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how high our expectations are as Chelsea fans since Tuchel's come, which is kind of a positive I want to take from the draw yesterday.
100%. But this has been episode 46 from the Shed End podcast. Theo, thank you for joining me as always. And we will be back next week. Hopefully, I always say this at the end, but I'm going to say it anyway. Maybe I'm the jinx, but hopefully with a result against Liverpool in the bag as well. We need to bounce back from Brighton. So make sure you join us for episode 47. But thank you very much for listening.